So I don't know that I talked about it much earlier. My planter is a 4-row planter. It's a really fancy 4-row planter. Most people just chuckle when you say 4-row planter.
I can hold off a little bit
This
longer.
is the cover crop version of that. I can't say enough good things about the Montag company. Roger Montag is the founder of the company. I've spent time with him. He's an engineer. His son has been following the regenerative thing, and Mark here used to, and he'd bring these great big machines to all these field days, and I come over, Mark, I just want a little machine. I just want a little, you know, I do plots. I don't need a great big, you know, I don't have a 4-wheel drive tractor and all that. And all this equipment looked like this, you know, so I was like, oh, and finally, at some point, Mark says, well, let's talk. And then Anthony Montag, the current CEO of the company, says, yeah, Bob, we think we can do something for you. And then I went to work and did some what I call Photoshop engineering, took a picture of my planter and my pickup and my little tractor, and I've had these underground ag dual seed units for several years. I'm a really strong believer in drilling in the cover crop rather than broadcasting it. You just get seed to soil contact. If you're doing tillage and you're mixing it in, that kind of counts. But, and I've got a good friend that has an aerial application system, you know, power to them, but I love drilling, okay? But I had a really lousy meter. I couldn't control it. Well, these guys are in the meter business. So basically, I kind of made some pictures and they turned around and built this rig. So it's an off-the-shelf standard unit. Mark can tell you all about it. The technology is just amazing. It's totally self-contained. They put their own engine on it, its own hydraulic system. The only connection it has to the tractor is a CAN bus connection. So the software that's running on the John Deere 2630 monitor that's in my little tractor is running this, and it's talking to the other stuff, the tractor's RTK and all that. And then it looks long, and we're going to deal with that because that has its own issues. But this spring, we put this behind my planter. So on the front of the planter, we had a tank with compost tea and fish in it. Emulsified fish, is that the right term? Going into the row unit, and then we had biochar in the back of this. And I asked the guy, I said, you ever done biochar? No, well, I gave him a bottle of it. Well, it might work, you know, and it worked beautifully. It was, it really worked well. And they built it with several containers. And so my goal here is, I talked about baseline and replications. My goal is to be able to go into a field of this size, and we may have a couple of hundred rows here, but it's really an opportunity to start to look at different cover crop treatments. And if you think weeds are complicated and bugs are complicated, figuring out which cover crop species is going to work where is really a challenge. But I have nothing but good to say about the Montag organization and their commitment here that says, well, let's figure out how to build a machine that encourages experimentation and all of that. So even though their roots are in dry fertilizer, I think they see their future as being in the cover crop metering business. And part of the charm of this thing is it is a very accurate meter. With that, Mark, you want to make any statement?
Thank you. Any questions, I guess? From Bob gave a pretty good rundown of that. Basically, we're using air, and it's we know exactly how much material, seed or fertilizer is metered into this air chamber, which is kind of based on a tornado. The low pressure being in the center of the tornado, and the high pressure, the volume of air is what takes it out to the row. But it's real accurate, so each row is basically run through a metering system like this. So we can vary the rate by how fast we turn this auger. We are working on a different auger system for super small seeds such as covercress, alfalfa, clovers, and different things like that. But anyway, just kind of a real simple unit and a lot of opportunities. So you gotta make sure you understand what the cubic foot, what a cubic foot of product that you're putting in weighs. So you have a little scale here to dip into your seed or your fertilizer and measure it out, and you enter that into your system to get it dialed in. So pretty basic. It's one of those ideas that, hey, why didn't I think of that? But Roger Montag is a farmer that grew up in West Bend, Iowa, and came up with an idea on how to improve the efficiency and the accuracy of nutrients and manning them. And then as the cover crop business is growing, we got a unit for a Hagee. We'll do up to 120 foot with that. Within 1% accuracy is what Deere wanted on the Hagee, and we were the only manufacturer to hit that. So, kind of interesting stuff. Great place to be in the market right now.
Thanks, Mark. That's great. And then we've talked about 60-inch rows and 90-inch rows. This is configured to go down between 60-inch rows, as is the tractor, as is my little John Deere Buck ATV. Everything's 48 inches wide. It's pretty tight late in the season, but you can do it. And again, the goal, one of the variables with cover crop is when you put them in. We don't have an impressive cover crop out here because it was so late when we put it in. Next, ideally, I would be doing some cross seeding very early in the spring of some species, and then when the corn's about this high, I'd like to get in there and put cover crop between it. So one of the big variables is when do you do it. The thing I like about the extra wide rows is you have much more ease of getting in there, and you have a much higher success potential with all that extra sunlight. So that's kind of one of the reasons I'm interested in the extra wide rows, because of the things that these guys talked about on growing the soil health and all that sort of good stuff. So with that, I think any questions, comments in general on anything?
What do you do?
I have a 40-year-old combine that I combine one row at a time. I built a scale into the tank, so I will actually weigh. I don't really trust yield monitors, and they aren't built for this kind of a world, but I weigh the corn off of each of the rows. But I am harvesting both of the twin there. I'm sorry, your question?
With your spring seeded cover crop, or your frost seeding, excuse me?
I have not done that yet,
Okay,
but I will.
okay.
I only got possession of this thing here this spring.
Are you
And
going to let it grow or terminate it before planting?
I would like to avoid terminating, except in the row with strip spray.
Yeah.
Mike is more fun to work with because, in spite of what these guys say, he still appreciates nitrogen. He's beat me up pretty good about that. And so we try to manage it because he is in the nutrient reduction program, but he's also very receptive to putting it on only when we need it. So that's where this kind of works. But that gets complicated with my baseline rows because now I'm not getting the same treatment.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your short question. I don't have experience with frost seeding, but I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I'd like the roller crimping thing seems to be interesting, but it's pretty fussy is what I understand. I am gonna fabricate a roller crimper that goes on the front of that tractor. So, any other questions? If not, we're gonna call it done. Going once, twice. Thank you. You've all been really excellent from